So right now, it's a little bit different than before, right?
Yeah, just a little bit, but it's still along the same lines.
Okay,
So,
okay.
yeah.
I'm just saying, so, it was different
Mhm.
sections. right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Sophia.
Yeah, no problem. Morning.
Morning.
It's interesting to have the hybrid stuff, right?
Right.
It's like, I should be here more often for the classes, but sitting there is different than sitting here. It's like, there's only two, but no, there's a few more. Okay, all right. So you all can hear me online?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay. All right. First thing first, let's do some introduction. I see some new faces and some familiar faces online. So let's do in the room first. Go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Anthony Logan. Recently joined the Pace of Richmond. So I just got my licensing and everything sent out last week. So just waiting for that to get back.
Nice. Welcome. How do you spell your first name?
Anthony, A-N-G.
Oh, Anthony. Okay. Okay. All right.
I'm Coleman Daly. I got my license beginning of March. So right now I'm an individual agent.
March, you said? Okay. 1 month. When did you get your license?
I'm still waiting to receive it. I just sent everything off last week.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So still pretty new.
Yes, fresh off the press.
Yeah.
So you're what, like 15? No, you have to be 18, right? You
22.
can't. You look super young. Yeah, no, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I envy that. Oh my gosh, we're May already. Okay, so we have Anthony. I'm just making a note so I can say hi to you all next time. Say it again.
Coleman.
Coleman. Okay. And you are individual agent right now?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you do before?
Before I was a student at VCU
Okay.
for about 2 years. I started back in 2018 and then took some time off after COVID just because the whole school thing during COVID was horrible.
That is weird.
And then I just worked for a little while. I was trying to figure out what I really wanted to do. Because I was just kind of done with school because I was like working for a degree that I didn't, like I knew I wasn't very interested in. I was just trying to like finish out school.
Uh-huh.
But I realized it was kind of a waste of time and money if I didn't really want to do it.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
decided to do real estate.
All right. That's cool. Do you like it so far?
Good. It's tough trying to start up, but yeah, I like it.
Well, it's not the worst.
Yeah. But it is a little harder being younger, because you don't know as many people like.
Well, there's no
friends.
difference if you're.
Well, I just mean like if you're a little older, you know people that are like looking for houses right now, and I don't know.
But if you
many-
just come to a new town, it's the same, right? Think
Sure.
about, put yourself in that shirt. Don't pep talk yourself about you're young. So, and hopefully these classes will help you get over those things. I mean, you have your advantage, definitely. So, yeah. Can you introduce yourself online, Tyler? See?
Yes, ma'am. So my name is Tyler Frisbee. I just got my license mid-April, just finished onboarding last week. So this is my first Ignite meeting.
Nice. Okay, so we're like all very fresh graduates.
Yes.
Welcome, Tyler. You're in good hands.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, I said you're in good hands. The office is.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes. All right, who's next? Who do we have?
Hi, Sophia. Good morning. This is Suvarna.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I know you.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell everybody about yourself briefly.
Sure. Yeah, hello everyone. This is Suvarna. I got my license by end of February. Um, and I'm a solo or individual agent. Yeah.
All right, okay. And Tyler, are you in a team or are you on your own for now?
I am currently on my own.
Okay, good, good. All right. Who's the next? Shavana?
Hi, my name is Shavana Gibson. I'm still waiting for my actual license, and I am an individual right now.
Good, all right. Okay, so we have 2 waiting for license, a couple more, all in the first quarter. Very good. Okay, all right. All right, okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about seller appointments today. I'm sure you all have been going through, some of you are in different phases. If you just joined, like Tyler, we have talked about in Ignite, essentially is your first training about how to run the business. When you get your license, you pretty much realize you're just reading through law. Nobody's teaching you anything about how to find clients, how to do business, how to write contract. Ignite is the first training that's going to teach you every aspect of the business. So it doesn't matter where you join, you can start here and then continue to attend the classes or go back and read through. There are actually, during the COVID time, we have the virtual classes and they're all recorded. So if you want to just, and even for the same material, you can hear a different instructor, because we all, like, I never followed the actual bullet points. I mean, I go by that, but I always just teach what I do and what I feel could be beneficial. So you listen to different instructors, you get different perspective. And to that effect, when I joined the office, I've already been doing this business for a little while. I used to come to a lot of these classes because they're taught by different instructors, different agents, and you will hear different ideas because everybody does things differently. So continue to learn, and that's the beauty of this business. You don't like the college life because it's more like a textbook. This is more you learn, you do, you learn, you do. And you do something you didn't feel as efficient, you come back to another class, you learn a new way of thinking, new way of doing it, and then that might work out better. So just constantly, it's in Keller Williams, they're very focused on training, mindset. One of the training down the road that you will hear about is called Bold. They are very, very much focused on mindset. So if you search a Bold flyer or like a poster, and I believe Maria or Patrice has one in their office, one of the things is your business grow to the extent that you grow. So if you don't learn, you're not gonna get very far. In terms of the entire Ignite, I think now they put it in 2 different parts. There's the sparks and there's the elements. So the elements are talking about the actual way you do this, how to negotiate, how to write a contract, how to have a buyer consultation, how to do a listing appointment, and then the actually attract the clients, set up your database and managing those. There's a lot of different, very practical aspect of it. So today is assuming that you have already had a seller contacting you, or somehow you heard about this person is gonna sell their house. So your goal is to try to get an appointment to go in and have that presentation and get the listing. So have that background, and so we'll talk about listing appointment, presentation, and get that listing signed. Any questions before I start? No? All good? Okay. So there's a couple things that we'll be talking about. At first, in order to get a listing, you have to understand what does the seller want. And so only when you know what the needs are, you can better meet that need. So know what the seller wants and what you need to do to best fulfill that need. So throughout today's conversation, we'll talk about understand the whole concept, understand what we're trying to do, which is what the seller wants. And then what do we need to prepare before that listing appointment? And how does that listing appointment go? Part of that is, how do we present that listing appointment, the presentation. And there's the pre-listing package and the actual presentation, and then actually go on that appointment. And then get your listing signed either at appointment or after. Everybody does things differently. We'll talk about the pros and cons, and I'm sure you will feel more comfortable with one way or the other, and there's really no right or wrong. And then we'll do a recap, and that's pretty much it. So first thing first, how do the sellers find their agent? Some of you are newer to this class overall, like Tyler, but to recap, this is essentially how do you generate leads, right? So lead generation, there's multiple ways you can, the big picture lead generation, there is the paid version versus non-paid version. So, you can advertise, market, which is going to cost money. So that's the paid version. You can send out letters, send out postcards. You can do Facebook marketing. Anything you have to pay, I'm not trying to bash anybody, but there are people who pay on Zillow as well. So all of these, homes.com, realtor.com, there are lots of paid versions. Google AdWords, TV ads, radio, billboard. There are all kinds of ways that you can pay to get clients. So those are the marketing side of it. And then the prospecting side of it doesn't mean that it's completely free, but the prospecting part of it is more time consuming. So you either pay by money or you pay by time, right? So paying by time is more, we call it prospecting. Prospecting is you go out to find the client personally. So either you go by referral, which is also prospecting because, you have to maintain that relationship, talk to your spheres, your friends. Maybe your friends are new, young, but they might have parents that need help. They might have grandparents that's going to nursing home that need help. So you just need to always put yourself out there. First thing first, you need to tell people, this is what I'm doing. This is what I do. And even though I'm new, I'm very eager to work for you. You will never get anybody else to work as hard as I do, right? I have kids, I have family. I'll never be available all the time as you do, right? So you have your advantage. You just have to figure it out. But so that's one sphere of influence. You can go do open houses, so you can attract sellers, buyers that way. So essentially you spend time. And you can also do cold calls, right? So you can find phone numbers from all sorts of ways. Some cost money, but it's not hugely expensive compared to the marketing side. So you can sit there and use the dialer, call. You get a lot of no's, but you'll get some yes. It's more a numbers game. So this one gives you, this slide is a research that NAR, National Realtor Association, has done in 2019. This is how buyers and sellers find their agents. And you see the largest section, which is almost 40% of the people, is referred by a friend, a neighbor, or relative. I mean, think about if you want to go to a restaurant and you'd be like, okay, where should I go? I want to eat Italian food. If you have a good friend nearby, you would ask, hey, where should I go? I'm new to town. So 40% of the chance that word of mouth is the best referral source. 27% has used an agent they have worked with previously. So this is telling you how important the repeat business is. So, but the point is, I think in the research it says there's about 40-some% of the buyers actually have worked with an agent before, but only 27% of those, so it's almost half of it use the same agent from before. Obviously, there are some agents that are not that great. People are like, oh my God, I'll never use them again. So that's part of it. But the other big part of it is that we don't keep up with them. We don't go back and touch base with them. We don't go back and regularly, keep our names fresh on their mind. So that's the part that, if you are trying to stay in the business, that's why you see, the longer you stay in the business, you tend to have more clients. So it's a time game, right? So, but you do, and Carol Williams does a really good job with teaching, the Red Book, the MREA, Millionaire Real Estate Agent, is teaching that, like, you really need to have systems set up, and the command has those built in. You just need to set the smart plan. So they automatically send out, emails and things, reminders and anniversaries, birthday for your client. So they do most of your work, but you still need to remember, when you get alerts, say, call so-and-so, you'd be like, oh, okay, let me call or make a text, right? So 27% use an agent from before. The other ones are the lighter blue, 5% is personal contact by the agent. So, you somehow find out this person is about to sell. Like, I had listings that I was driving by a friend's neighborhood and saw someone has a big truck outside, has, some painter's car there. And I'm like, are you gonna sell your house? Like, oh yeah, we're working on it. And I said, do you have an agent? No, we are gonna interview a few. I'm like, oh, can I be one of them? They're like, sure. So I give them a card. The chance of them calling you back is not that great. But I did have a couple, and the goal is try to get their number. They might resist. They might say, no, I'll call you. If they resist giving you numbers, sometimes the chance of them calling you is less. But if you can get their number or send them a card or send them a pre-listing package, your chance of getting that listing is higher. Sometimes, when you have a listing or you have a buyer that bought a house in that neighborhood, you can send out some mailers or drop off some flyers and say, hey, I just sold a house in your neighborhood. If you're looking to sell, I would love to help you. So I've had those happen. So that's kind of like a personal contact you're trying to get. Internet website, first 4%. Open house, med agent 3%, and other. So if you look at referred by a friend, neighbor, and used them previously, that's a big chunk. So, and those are the parts that are usually not marketing based. So prospecting is pretty effective in this business. So now we talk about what the seller wants. Only when you know what they want, you can be a good fit for them, right? So look at this pie chart, is pretty evenly distributed of all these 6 different sections. Of course, there's a lot of little things that's really hard to define. But the other 5, so everything's around that 20%. I guess the most important, help them market a house. That's the whole reason they hire you. So you have to do a good job with marketing. Get the maximum exposure you can from this listing. The second highest is help sell the house in a specific, so timing, right? Get it sold in a specific time frame. So with that in mind, based on their time, your marketing strategy, your pricing strategy should also change. Should be modified to make sure they can achieve their goal. Help price the home competitively. So they're obviously, everybody has a different idea on how much their house is worth. You're the professional. You have to give them advice so that they can achieve their goal. People saying, well, my goal is to get the most amount for my house. That's not necessarily always true for the seller, because some people, that's not their goal. If timing is important, if doing minimum work is important, there are different things that's important to different people. We like to assume a lot, which a lot of times is what hurts us. in the business. We assume people want the most money, but in reality, they just want minimum headache. So make sure you ask that question. Don't assume you know. Help fix up the home and sell for more, that's 16%. So that is the part that some people want more money and know that their house needs work, but they have either no time, no resource, means no contacts for, how to do these things, or no money. So there are all kinds of reasons that they need help. That is a little more advanced because you need to understand how to help in minimum. I'm not saying trying to do shoddy work, but you need to understand what are the things will give them the best return. There's actually a website, I think, and I probably will find it and send it to the group. It gives you a chart. I think it's one of the home inspector or company's website. It's telling you what are the things you do to the house is going to give them historically the most return. Say, for example, painting, you spend $2,000, it's going to get you approximately how much return. And renovate a kitchen, obviously, the more money you spend, it's not necessarily going to return the highest. So you need to understand what's the balance. And those are the research that you need to do yourself. And these are the things I feel is beneficial. When I was a new agent, I used to study a lot of houses. I used to study, okay, these houses came on the market and I watched them. I see the pictures. And I'm sure that you all have been taught that you should preview at least 5 houses a week when you're new, because you need to understand the market, the houses. True, every house is similar. They all have a kitchen, multiple bathrooms, or 1 bathroom, and bunch of bedrooms. But you need to understand your goal is not just to go see a house that's pretty or not pretty. You need to understand first, identify your market, where you want to work, right? Ideally, you don't want to work 40 minutes away from your house. You want to be relatively close to where you live because that's naturally your circle is, or your family lives, or your friends. Most of your friends live in the city, that you don't want to only do research in, down in Chester, because that's not going to help them. So know the market where you want, and then go preview houses. And when you look at these houses, make notes, right? Okay, this house has this kind of kitchen, this kind of a lot of them you can refresh your memory by looking at the photos afterwards. But make some notes and then monitor these. So in our MLS system, or before you have an MLS access, a few of you are still waiting for license, so you don't have your MLS access yet. But go into the system, mark the homes that you like. If you don't have it, we have Zillow, we have, Realtor.com. I mean, there's so many websites you can see homes, right? If you don't have your license, tag along with an existing agent in our office that are always busy running around. You can literally tag with them, say, hey, can I go around with you for half a day on a Friday, Saturday? And then, so that way, while you show your client, I'll see how you show them. I will also make some notes about the homes, or tag along with one of the newer agents, right? And the key is mark these homes, make notes, and see how much they sell for, how long it takes to sell them. And then make notes on what matters to these homes, right? Some homes are selling for more, and why? Some homes are not selling, why? So those are the things that you can study before you even get there. And then that helps you understand, okay, this house is freshly painted and people really like it. They got 12 offers and sold for 60,000 over asking. The other one is well maintained, but it's 1980s painting, have all these dark trims, have really dark curtains that's not even removed, very little light in the house. The bulbs are dim. They're all different colors. I mean, the bulb, right? Because there's the bright white bulbs. There's the really, Edison bulb that you can barely see anything. So lighting matters. So those are the things that's going to help you in the future when you go to a listing appointment. You will say, at a minimum, we should do this, this, this to get you a little more money than you need. And these are actually not going to cost you a whole lot. And then when you identify the key things that's gonna give people the most money, then go talk, associate yourself with, with the office, with existing agent, ask them, hey, I need a couple painters. So when I have a listing, I can recommend them, not one, at least two, because they need to at least go shop. It's not to say they have to rely on you to get contractors, but coming with resources, information ready for them to use is very, seller will really appreciate that. Even if they don't end up using it, they will appreciate that you have thought about it, prepared it, and makes their life easier. At least you have an attempt to make their life easier. So
Value.
yes, come from contribution. So that's your contribution. Some people may not take you on it, but they will appreciate that you did the work for them. So those are the things. What I'm saying is, right now is the time for you all to build your business, all the foundations, all the information that you can build up because you have time on your hands. Once you get your business, once you have a lot of clients, you're going to be very busy. Then we're going to have a different problem because you won't have time to do certain things. But by then you'll have the next level that you can work on. And we have lots of mastermind groups in the office that you can associate yourself with, find an accountability partner, but everybody's very open to share information. We have coffees, cappers. You literally can sit there, ask questions. But the reason I talk about that is because fixing up a home and sell for more, it's a two-step process. So it needs a little more, preparation on your side. And then 13%, help find a buyer. The chance of someone to actually be on the listing side and on the buyer side is not that great. And it's a very tricky situation. So you want to make sure, you definitely do all your research and make sure you understand your fiduciary responsibility to one party versus the other, or both, or what's the restrictions if you're on both sides. And this also talks about sometimes, you might meet someone that's for sale by owner and they really don't want that much help from you, but they are willing to pay if you can find them a buyer. So those are, the most important things. But this is not to say one seller is only looking for one thing. So if you summarize these, take out the other, the things they're looking for you to do is to market the home, sell the home in a timely manner, price the home competitively so they will get a good price. Because believe it or not, if you price the home wrong, in different market, things react differently. But even in this market, home sits. If you don't price it properly, you overprice it, home sits on the market, and it's not good for the seller. In my experience, the people that lose the most amount of money is always the people that overprice their home because they chase the market. Even in such a hot market, they will chase the market down and they will lose money. So know how to price a home, know the marketing strategy, know how the market reacts to pricing is very important. So that's the other thing you need to study, right? When you look at homes, preview homes, you were like, oh my God, that's a crazy price. Then you want to watch it, see how it does, right? If it sits on the market for 3 weeks in this hot, crazy market, something is wrong. Then you watch it and see how much they really sold for and think about it. If the house was priced more competitively, how much they could have sold. So those are the things that you want to do when you have time right now. And then obviously to different levels, they will want you to help them with suggestions on what they should do to fix up the home. Or sometimes it's just some spruce up, remove some things, decorate the home a little bit differently to attract that buyer and then sell the house for more, because a cluttered home is not attractive. And then in the end, help them find a buyer. Host open houses. Obviously, host open house, there are multiple agendas, right? You're there actually finding a client for yourself in the future. But at the same time, there are a very small percentage of times that the buyer does come from the open house. So that's knowing the big 5 sections of the seller's needs is going to help you put together a listing presentation pre-listing package and the listing presentation to attract that seller and for them to agree to work with you. So the process of listing. Anybody in the audience have any experience with selling a home in the past? Probably not you.
Not yet.
Have you sold a home yourself? Not as an agent, but okay. Anybody in the class have sold a home? I don't think so. Tyler, Shavana?
No,
I mean, I've
not
owned
yet.
2 homes that I've sold,
Okay.
but with a realtor.
No.
Oh, sorry, Tyler, say it again.
I was saying I've owned 2 homes before that another realtor had sold for me in Fort Worth, but not. I kind of know the process based on that, but not as an agent.
Okay, no, that's exactly what I'm asking. As a consumer, have you had experience? So you did.
Yes.
Okay, tell us a little bit, 'cause you're the only one, I think, among all of us here, minus me. What's your experience with that sale from the seller perspective, and what you like or don't like about that? Or do you still remember that agent's name?
I do, because it's one of my buddies from Fort Worth that I grew up with. So he sold our first house for us and found us a new house in the same neighborhood. So I probably had a unique experience in the fact that I didn't know the agent,
Yeah.
personally. So
Right. And
the
see,
only
that tells you, right, that the seller, the agent comes from a majority of that big chunk. Right. Yeah. And go on. And
So-
how was the listing process? Like, did you feel like you got your needs met? And what did you like? Or, I'm not saying just because it's your buddy, there are still things you wish things could.
Yeah, so the first time I feel like went pretty seamlessly. The second time he's also a pilot, so we probably needed a little bit more time from him than he could give us. So we were doing last minute showings where we had a newborn and we were just having to like get our kid out of the house really fast so he could run over there and show the house to somebody while he was in town.
Mhm.
It was a little,
Rough.
yeah, a little bit the last time,
Okay.
but then we moved here, so I don't think we'd ever use him again anyways.
Well, see, the reason is not about using one person or not, but it's to think back if you have that experience. If you don't, then obviously you want to hear from others, right? How their experience are. And, as a new agent, I feel like a lot of times we don't feel comfortable telling people we're new. But there's no shame in admitting new, right? But letting you know you're actively learning and you're very eager to serve. So one thing is, I had a good friend that asked me, like, hey, I just got my license and I have never sold a home, but I have a potential listing coming up. And what was your experience selling homes before? What do you like or don't like about it? And I thought that was a great conversation. Because, I could share some of my thoughts and she actually incorporated that in her conversation. She got that listing. But I'm saying before you actually have a listing right now, because what Tyler is saying, down the road, you might get busy. So you may not devote as much time into the thought process. So do some research now, talk to people about their experience and then incorporate that. Because that's how you can make, because as a realtor, we're all very similar, but we're all very different, right? There is a reason someone chooses you as an agent versus another. Not every time there is an interview of a selection process, I would say more than 50%, they do have that chance to think about who they want to use. A lot of times they just literally get one name and they stick with it. But still having that thoughtfulness and it's gonna help you get more referrals down the road. So the process to listing. So there is 5 steps, right? Pre-listing questionnaire, scheduling an appointment, send a pre-listing packet, creating that presentation, visiting the home to actually go on the appointment and get that listing. And like I said, this is an ideal situation. Doesn't mean you have to do all 5. I literally have my best friend listing houses. I list them, their houses. I don't know any questionnaire because I already know them. I mean, I do talk to them, but everything was done pretty much once on the phone and once go to the home. But that's not how I do all my listing presentations, right? So you want to understand what is your full listing process. And then when you have different situations, then obviously whatever you need to skip, that's not going to jeopardize having that listing, then you can. It comes with experience, but sometimes it's good to have a process set in place. And even if it's your best buddy, you're comfortable, you can still send them things that you just don't spend nearly as much time to prefaces and explain, but they will still feel, oh, wow, this is really professional. You know, just because we're best friends, they still send me all this, even though, you know, I told her, oh, it's fine, just come listing, it's fine. They still send me everything, it still looks good, it looks professional. So that image is gonna, you know, that first impression is important. So let's talk about pre-listing questionnaire. So there's, so, you know, we're talking before the appointment, right? Before, during, after. Pre-listing, make sure there's, you know, there are a couple goals that you want to do. You want to tell the seller your unique value proposition. You want to tell them your value. You want to tell them in general what realtors do for them, so first you want to tell them what everybody can do. You don't say it in that way, you say, you know, what I can do for you. For the most part, that's pretty standard for realtors, right? We're there, sell their house, marketing their house. But you also want to tell them what you are different. In your situation, you might say, I am super young, this is my 120% focus. I'm going to devote all my time to do this. I'm going to do this. But someone like you on a team, you're going to propose your value differently. We have expertise in every field. We have someone dedicated to that, and they will just do that and make sure it's a seamless process. You will never have problem finding any of us. So make sure you think about that ahead of time, because these are the things that you can prepare ahead of time. You don't need to change your, you know, listing package, pre-listing package that much. You might want to add a little bit something, but you don't really need to change them. So make sure you understand your value. What is unique about you, but what is universal about you as well. And make sure you have that together. Pre-selling, so this is to say you want to ask the question about what the seller's goals are, what you can do to meet that goal, right? So you want to understand, what their goal is and how you are the best fit for them. So you kind of build that rapport up front. So if they feel connected, you're 50% in the door. And then the third option, the third goal is to ask upfront, do you have any questions for me? Do you have anything I can answer for you? I mean, you don't necessarily have to say, do you have any objections, right? I mean, you don't want to bring that to their mind, but ask them, what are the questions that I can answer for you right now? Or anything I can do before we meet. So they may have a couple questions. And don't assume that commission is the only objections people have. There's so many objections so many questions they have, not necessarily objections. But you want to understand what is their main concern. You want to understand what is their main goal. And if there's any questions ahead of time that you should do research, then it's going to help you have a much better chance. And you also want to ask them, hey, by the way, are you interviewing any other agent? Or, you know, if I can answer all your questions during our meeting, are you ready to sign the listing agreement with me? So those are the questions you can ask. I think in the beginning, a lot of people are uncomfortable about asking those. They're like, ooh, that sounds a little aggressive. Or, oh, that, I'm not sure if they're ready for that. So you can test the water a couple times. And the best thing to do these is to find a partner, you know, especially the people that's going through Ignite with you. A lot of you all are on the same playing field, in the same, same stage of your career. You can actually sit down, find a time for an hour, talk among each other. Hey, let's practice the script, because we have a lot of script. So you say, you're the seller, I'm the listing agent. let me talk to you about this, and then you switch roles. And then, so script practicing is very important. Not to say when you actually go to the seller, the listing appointment, you want to sound as if you're remembering something, and then like, I forgot. Can I start over? That sounds bad, right? But the more you practice, the more you can put that essence into your own word, right? You're like, okay, so my goal is to talk about this, talk about this, talk about that. And even if you miss some words, it's fine, as long as you know what you're trying to talk. So don't sound as if you're trying to remember anything. Pre-listing packet. So I think, let me go back one step to talk about the pre-listing questionnaire. So those two, the first two steps are kind of sometimes can be accomplished in one call, sometimes needs 2 calls. Some listing agent, and I think in your team, they have 2 separate conversations. First, they set an appointment. I'm looking to list my home. The team is gonna say, okay, is there what's the best time for so-and-so to come to meet with you? Or what's the best time for me to come see the home and discuss about listing your home? And they said, so sometimes you wanna give them a choice, right? I can come today at 3, or I can come tomorrow at 10. Or you can say, well, I can come to, if they said, oh, we can't meet during the day because we both work, you can say, well, I can come today at 6, or I can come tomorrow at 4. Give them some options. Don't let them say, well, next week sometime, maybe. When it's very vague and no urgency, sometimes, because anytime you meet with them and sign that listing agreement, anytime before that, someone else can swoop in, literally, and get that listing. So create some urgency, get in the door to meet with the sellers, and get a time set up. And then a lot of times we do pre-listing qualification, in this sense, questionnaire, before your actual meeting, after you set an appointment. Or sometimes you do them at the same time. You say, let me ask you a few questions just to make sure we know, we have an idea of what you're looking for, so we can better address your concerns and make that more effective. So there are questionnaires or pre-listing qualification questions on the the KWU website. Usually the question is, so you can do some research, and that's why I think Pace of Richmond, they do some research, and then they have all the information before they call to do an intake. So, you can quickly pull up MLS tax records, and you can see who is on the title. And usually when you call, you're only talking to one person, right? So you want to make sure, just to make sure when I come for the appointment, both owners are going to be present. Is that a problem? You want them to say no. Obviously there are situations that only one spouse wants to meet. You want to make sure. So if you are the only person that can meet, I just want to make sure all the decision makers are present, right? Because I don't want to have a conversation with you, and then later on you say, well, I need to talk to my husband because I don't decide anything. What's the point, right? So you want to make sure you meet with all the decision makers. You want to ask them, and I just want to understand if you still have a loan on a house, and what if you by chance know the outstanding balance? Because what if the house is, if they have a loan on the house for 400,000 and the house is only worth 400,000, they have expenses to pay, end of the day, they may not have enough money to sell that house because they have to pay the agents, they have to pay closing costs, and they may not, this is the market that everybody gets what they want or more, but that's not always the case, right? You're not learning just to only do business in today's world. So if they have to come up with money to close, you have to understand, can they do it or they can't, right? So ask them that question. What's your outstanding, what's your balance on your loan? And then you can research your value and know that is this potentially an issue. You want to ask some other questions about, is there anything I should know about the home? Is there any major repairs that needs to be done? So we have a pretty extensive questionnaire online. And you can obviously trim things down, right? There are things that you feel like, oh, either I'm not comfortable asking right now, or I can ask later on. So the more you ask upfront, and also ask them about motivations, right? So tell me your plan after selling the home, right? I want to make sure I do a good job for you to best suit your needs. So when is the plan? When do you need to move out of the home? Where are you going to, right? Oh, I'm moving down to Florida to retire. Do you have a place to go already? No, I'm waiting for this money to buy another one. Well, that changes things, right? Because it depends on that. They decide where to go. What if they don't get the money they needed? Can they still go? And do you have to sell this home? No, I don't. Then you know they're not super motivated, right? So you want to understand, don't spend all your time if they're just testing the water, right? So there are so many questions you can ask, and you will get better at asking them. But start with something. You may not be comfortable asking everything, but you can start with something. And they will appreciate that you are doing your job, doing research, doing all the things ahead of meeting them, so that meeting is effective. Because it's better than going into the house and ask them, okay, I think the house is worth this much, and they say, oh, I have a little much more than that. I don't think I can sell. You know, first of all, you're wasting your time. Second of all, you know, you're wasting their time, but that's not a problem. But you're not getting a listing, right? So it's a waste effort. The pre-listing packet, it's a really good thing to send. These day and age, a lot of people don't do the paper version. There are still people hand deliver a paper packet of printed flyers, materials, sample contracts, listing agreement, disclosures, and everything, and marketing materials about the agent themselves. So we have on command a pre-listing packet that you can actually, it's a PDF, but they have places you can fill. So you could definitely go into your account and start updating your profile, put all your, make sure one thing is get a professional headshot. They're not that expensive. If you work on a team, it's easy because they already have a process. If you're on your own, ask anybody if you don't have a good photographer. Don't just ask your buddy to take a cell phone picture for you. I know it's not that important, but it's important for a new agent because you have a lot of things going against you. At least one thing you can do is to spend some time. I mean, you can barter with someone to take a photo, or you can pay like $50, $75 for a pretty good photo. I have photographers that do that. If you need names, get a good photo, and then start preparing your buyer consultation packet, pre-listing packet, listing packet. We have all of that in the command, so definitely go to design and get those going when you have time. Some of the bigger agents, or the established teams, some of them you see when you talk to them, they're like, oh, I don't have that, or oh, I don't even have a listing presentation. I mean, that's fine, right? When you have that much clientele that they just literally come to you, whatever you do, but that's not how you want to learn and set up your business, right? So spend the time, get these. Down the road, if you decided that you just got enough, you don't need it, that's fine. But when you have time, work on those things. Anybody has any questions so far? You can always jump in. Yeah, I think we're good. All right, so pre-listing packet has a couple things. To set some expectation with the seller, give them you're pre-selling yourself again. So first pre-sale is on the phone, right? You're asking them some questions, you're being courteous, you're being professional, you show them you want to be prepared, you respect their time. The second one is the pre-listing packet. So you can do them by digital. You will find out if they actually read it or not. I would say 50% don't read, 25% read it really, really carefully. And then the other ones are like, oh, I saw that briefly. So you get all kinds of extremes. So pre-listing packet usually mainly talk about you and talk about a couple things that you will bring to the listing appointment. And then also some people add like another version of the questionnaire, like, what do you like about your home? What do you like about your neighborhood? Write a few sentences about your home that we may use in the marketing. Some people do that, not everybody does it, but you will see when you go to design that we actually have a PDF that you can add and take out. The good thing is you get them to start talking about, like you can ask them to write down all major improvement of the home or major repairs that they think the house needs. So that'll give you an idea. When you go in, you ask them, hey, by any chance, have you filled out that page? And they're like, oh, shoot, I didn't see that. Then it's fine, as you walk through the house, you can take the page with you and ask them, when was the HVAC replaced? And they're like, I have a window unit. Don't ask questions, it's very obvious. But so those are the things you can add in pre-listing packet. You can also provide a list of services you do as part of your listing, because not everybody does the same thing. Like, for example, I provide staging consultation, I provide professional photography. Some listing agent, they charge the client. So, you decide on what you want to include and then you put it in there. We have and there's a lot of things that don't require money, right? Like I will do a professional, brochure. I will do a digital website for you. I will, host a agent, like broker open house, which is an open house only for agents, because 95% of the time, another agent is going to sell your house. So, having a broker open is a great option to connect with fellow agents and also, get to know people. And then, so those are the things you can put in pre-listing packet. And the things you put in pre-listing packet can also be in your listing presentation. So in the design in Command, we have those listing presentation template. We have different versions. Some are more traditional, some are more modern, some are more, like the black and white, very lean style. Some are very colorful. So it just depends on your style. You want that to fit with your personality, with all your other marketing materials. So the listing presentation is a little bit different than pre-listing packet. So the pre-listing packet talks about the things you want the seller to know ahead of time about you, the things you do for them ahead of time, and some things you kind of like a homework for them, like the questionnaire for improvement and things. The actual listing presentation, and sometimes people put a sample, like a template or like a draft copy of the listing agreement, like the blank listing agreement in the pre-listing package, so people can read ahead of time, because there are the analytical people, they want to read everything. So you don't want to sit there with them for like 3 hours for them to ask you, what does this sentence mean? What does that sentence mean? So, you want to control your time, because time is limited. So set your expectation also, and we'll talk about that at our actual meeting. The listing presentation, again, you can make it very similar to what you have in pre-listing. You will have things you do for them. You will have, and this is the time you bring the comps, the comparable sales. You don't want to bring that in pre-listing, packet. This is the time to talk about pricing, talk about the things you want them to do or you recommend them to do. So some people have one of these checklists. So they will actually check off things and make notes about, oh, living room should do this. Kitchen, oh, should repaint. Family room, oh, carpet needs to be deep cleaned. So you can make notes, and then that is a packet you can leave it with the seller to do. So that can be in the listing presentation, but the most important part of the listing presentation is an actual listing agreement. Hopefully you get that signed right away. And then the other thing is the comparable sales. So that's the time you talk about pricing. In the actual, and then so that means between the pre-listing appointment set and the actual listing appointment, you want to do your research, because by then you know the address, right? And hopefully, one thing for the pre-listing packet, a lot of people, they will either do themselves when you're a single agent, or if you're a team, they'll send a carrier to go over, a runner to go there, take a picture. Nowadays, the cell phones are so advanced. You can literally take a really nice friend photo, make sure it's straight on. Don't take it like this, like that, blurred, because that shows, everything shows how you present yourself. So make sure everything is professional. So take a nice friend photo. Don't have a whole bunch of cars in front. Try not to have all that. And then have that as part of the front page of your pre-listing packet. Yeah, go ahead. So, sorry, that's something I missed, but I think it's a nice touch. You don't have to, like I said, none of these you have to do, but it's just a good tip to have in there. Actual listing presentation, hopefully by then you've already done your research. You know what's the best comp to use, and you should have studied how these comps are. Because the last thing you want to do is go to a listing presentation and say, by the way, I found these 5 comparables or 3 comparables that are best used to decide on the pricing of your home. And this one sold for $300,000. This one sold for $320,000. This one sold for $305,000. And I think your house should be this much. The point is, you want to have these information, but you need to study it ahead of time about the age of the home, the size, the feature, square footage, how many bathrooms, how many bedrooms, have they done any updates? All of the things you should know, and you should have notes. You don't necessarily have to have it on the page that you give the seller, but you should have it in your notes. Sometimes I print the agent, like the customer long page, or customer short. The customer short is just like a half page. It has the address, price listed, price sold, or is pending, or active, and then just the front picture. But I will make notes in the bottom half of that blank side. I would say much bigger than subject property. Like your client home is 2,000 square feet. This is 3,500. I mean, honestly, that's not a good comp. But if that one say it's 2,600, you can say a little bigger, right? Bigger. And then if they're not updated, you can say, not renovated. And if it's super updated, you can say fully updated, new master bath, new kitchen, things like that. So those are the things you want to make notes. And the age. Let's say, for example, one home is not fully updated with all the cosmetic items, but they have brand new roof, brand new AC, brand new windows. I mean, those are expensive stuff. So you want to make a note of those. The key is, a lot of times you don't necessarily know the subject property that well yet. So you may have to fill those in and then come to a price recommendation at the actual point. So the listing presentation is going to have the comps, the price recommendation, the listing agreement, property disclosure, because you need the seller to sign that, and what you do, right? Again, so that could be the same as what in your pre-listing, packet, or it could be different. And then, a lot of times people do bring testimonial. For newer agent, you may not want to have too much of that, but you can have funds that are geared towards our office. So you can say, well, people have recommended our office so well. We have, we have had, great raving client reviews and things like that. So you can pitch, pivot towards other ways to present yourself. So then talk about when you, so this is talking about when you actually go on that listing appointment. So you want to understand the seller. So when you sit there, you go to the house. So that's why they call that listing presentation home tour, walkthrough tour. So this is time at the appointment time. You want to reach slightly early. We're always late, but you want to be there on time or early, and then knock on the door, be polite, and say, "Hi, Miss So-and-so, Mr. So-and-so. This is Sophia with Keller Williams. I'm here for our listing appointment at what time?" And then hopefully you're right on time or a minute or two before. You don't want to be there too early. Some agents are a little more aggressive. They will bring a sign literally with them to that appointment and then set the sign outside, which I don't know. I don't do that, but some people get a little intimidated of having that. But some people like it. So those are the things that I've seen happen. And then when you get to the home, you ask them obviously, right? Do you want me to take my shoes off outside of the home or in the home? Because some people don't like shoes in their house. So make sure you respect that. They may do things differently than you. So if they say, "Oh no, that's okay, just wear your shoes, it's fine," then that's fine. And then hopefully you will have a bag, you have paperwork. So you say, well, obviously you want to look around, right? If their kitchen and dining room is a huge mess, have tons of boxes, no place to sit. Obviously you don't want to say, "Well, can I leave my stuff in the kitchen?" Because there's no place to sit. But historically, the best place to sit down, have a conversation is where they sit down for dinner or something that you can find some decent space. So tell them like, "Hey, can I set my things down?" And first thing first usually is they will ask you or you will ask them for permission to do a tour of the home. And there is different school of thoughts. Like I said, there are people that are strongly against seller walking through the home with you. There are people that love that, and you will have to draw that conclusion yourself. And I would say you can go online on YouTube or Keller Williams University to see a few, because we have these staged home tour videos, like they actually walk through the home, how you do a home tour. So you can see how you feel comfortable with the seller with you or not, and you can try them differently. A lot of times the newer agent have a little bit difficulty rejecting things. So you can go with the flow first and see how you like that. And then the key is to always make notes after every meeting, every appointment, to know what works for you and what works better for the business. If you allow the seller to do a home tour with you and that took an hour and a half and you actually only plan an hour to be there and you screw your whole evening plan, then next time, absolutely not, right? Or if you think, "Oh man, during that hour and a half, we really bonded and that's the whole reason they feel someone is listening to them and they sign a listing agreement with me right away," well, maybe you should do that next time and just allow more time, right, for your appointment. So you need to draw conclusion after each experience. There's no set choosing. There's no rules really. But one thing is when you go with the seller around the house, it does take a little more time usually. You still want to be on the leading side. You don't want them to tell you too much. Obviously they want to sell you their home. They want to say, well, some people don't, but they want to say, this home, we renovated this part. We literally redid this whole section. We did that, we did this. And a lot of times you want to know things, but some things don't really matter, So you want to jot down whatever is important, major renovations, things that matters, things that needs to be done, or things you think can improve the sale. So make notes as you walk through the house, and this is the time you will crystallize the price recommendation, because it's one thing to have a range. When you do your pre-listing study, you have 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 different comps, but that doesn't necessarily tell you what the price this house that you're going to list for. But by going through the house, and hopefully you've already studied all the pictures for the other ones, then you know how it compares to the other. So then so the key is always to give a range, and at least that's my experience, and take it just for what it is. I always give the seller a range. So when I do a tour, I listen to the major improvement. I listen to some small talks about, oh, my daughter loves that. Oh, my daughter did that. And oh, my son when he was blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of memories come through. And that's why when you walk with seller, it takes a lot of time, but it is a good bonding process. So pros and cons. But I note down all the major improvements, things that can help. And then by the time we come back to the dining table or kitchen area, we sit down. And there's different school of thoughts. You want to be facing them or you want to be sitting beside them. If there's two spouses or two people that you're going to talk, you want to be able to see them both. You don't want to be only seeing one person and the other person sit here. You never have eye contact. Then this person is going to feel left out and that person may not give you the go ahead, because if there's two people voting, they're both going to have an equal voice. So you want to be able to sit in the spot that you can see them both. So you can toggle between the both. You don't want to keep doing this, but you want to be able to talk to them, address them kind of casually. And see their expression. If you see them starting to become impatient, bored, not interested, maybe they already decided. You just need to get to the answer. You don't need to completely finish your presentation. So then when you sit down on the table, you ask them, is there anything else I need to know about the home or about your timeline? I know you say you want to move down to Florida to be closer to your grandkids. Is there an absolute drop dead time that you have to go? And they say, oh, we absolutely have to be there before the school starts because my daughter actually needs me to pick up the kids and blah, blah, blah. So now you know you have a better timeline, right? They're more motivated. Or they say, oh, we already bought a house. We have a house under contract, blah, blah, blah. Then you know they're more motivated, right? So, and then the next thing is and this slide is talking about asking them, do they have more needs? What's their motivation? What's important? What's the timeline? If the house is in bad shape, do they have the money to fix it? Do they wish to fix any of those things? Or do they just want to get as much as they can in the current condition? There's different ways to do different things. So first, know their motivation, their needs, their capacity. Because there are elderly clients, they literally can't do anything. And the thing that actually has won a listing for me is I offered a professional deep cleaning for them after they moved. And the lady was like, oh my God, that sealed the deal. Because I was so paranoid about how I can help organize all these, pack and move, and then have to come back because they're moving 2 hours away. And they don't want to sell the house when they live there, so they want to move and then sell the house. And she was paranoid the whole time about moving 2 hours away and have to come back to clean. I mean, I didn't know that. She never said that. But after the fact, she told me, her husband told me that was the reason she decided to work with me. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. So a lot of time, read their mind and their expression, read what's concerning them. So that's why the more question you ask, intelligent question you ask, and note down the answers, it's going to help you with solving the needs and meeting the needs, and then get that listing. Ultimate goal is to get the listing and sell that listing, right? Right now, selling the listing is not as hard, but the time will come because hopefully you're not just staying in this business for 2-3 years, right? You want to be here for the long run, and it gets better. So, so now present a listing presentation. A walkthrough, right? So we have done the home walkthrough kind of. Do you have any questions about the walkthrough? Nothing.
Oh, I got a quick question.
Yeah.
Is there any red flags, that you may notice or want to?
Oh yeah, obviously, when you walk through a house and you see, a big water stain on the ceiling, you want to ask them, hey, may I know? Is there an active leak going on here? Is that a roof problem or is it a bathroom that's leaking? And I've had so many times that people say, oh yeah, it was, we had a tub that had a drain issue and we got it fixed. but we didn't want to paint, because if you paint that, you're gonna have to paint the whole ceiling. But you know you have to address that, right? You don't want you want to walk through the house from the buyer's perspective. You're not walking through, you want to see the house from the buyer perspective, not the seller's perspective. So you want to make sure, as you see that, you point it out. Just so we're clear, we cannot leave that there, because we will raise lots of questions. As long as this is fixed, that is our top priority, to make the house look, all the issues are resolved. So any other questions in terms of that? Obviously, you want to ask them, hey, do you know any issue? If they know there is a foundation issue, then that's a disclosable defect, right? You want to make sure you put that on the disclosure. I know most of the home disclosure nowadays, when we see it, there's nothing on it, because sellers like, I'm not aware of any. And the thing is, you need to know that property disclosure is only for potential issues. It's not something, technically, you don't need to disclose something that's clear. Like, it's very clear. That's not something you need to disclose. But I always say, go with, go on the side of the caution, right? If you think people is gonna trip right in the front door, maybe that's something you should disclose somewhere, If it's super clear, you don't technically need to be in the property disclosure, but you might want to disclose it in your listing so that people don't come and later on sue you. But after the walkthrough, the goal is to sit down, review the comps with the owners, and that's when you want to point out, dear Mr. and Mrs. Sellers, your home, it's lovely. Lovely is a very neutral term, because you're not saying it's good, you're not saying it's bad, it's their home, right? So you don't want to say your home is great or fantastic, because then next thing you want to propose to do work, they're like, I thought you said it's great. That means I don't need to do anything, right? Lovely doesn't really tell them the house needs work or not need work. And then you address them based on their need. And hopefully by then you've already had that conversation, right? Is their need to do minimum work and get out? Or their need is to get the utmost money that they can possibly get? Do they have the resource to do work? So based on those, you can recommend these 3 comps. This is fully renovated and it's sold for about $50,000 more than anybody else in the neighborhood. Your home is not that updated, and you don't have a plan to update like that. So it's more like these other 2 home comparables. And so based on my recommendation, I think a good listing price will be from here to here. You always give them a range, because you don't want to tell them one number. That feels like you're telling them something. When you suggest something, you give them a range. Sometimes you would ask them in the pre-listing qualification questionnaire, right? What would you price your home in today's market if you're listing it? But you have to be comfortable asking that question up front. Or there are questions you can ask up front. It's like I said, everybody does things differently. I don't ask sellers what they want to list up front, because I want to do my research and come to, that meeting and give them that recommendation. But I qualify them ahead of time to make sure they're not crazy, right? Like, I will feel if the house is only worth $600,000 and they have sent signals that they want $1 million for it, I probably wouldn't go for that appointment. There are other places you can pick up that signal. But this is the time you sit down, you give them a range, and hopefully you've done that range ahead of time based on worst case scenario and the best case scenario. So you have a larger range before you come into that appointment. And based on what you see, you have finalized, you narrow down that range. And then it doesn't mean the seller always picks something in between, right? The seller can say, but the market is so good, can we go a little more, even higher than your upper range? Which, depends on how you feel the sellers are reasonable or not reasonable. You want to ask them, we can certainly try to target for a higher range, but I want to make sure we don't overprice your home and let your home be the reason other homes sell. You want to sell your home, you don't want to sell other homes, right? Because if you are so expensive, anybody come here is going to buy other homes, they're not buying yours. So end of the day, you're the one who sits on market, we have to drop price, and you know that's not going to be good for your bottom line. So you want to convince them to the point as much as possible to come to your range. Well, if they come up with a number that's much lower than your recommended, technically that's not a problem, but you know, you want to make sure you understand what is realistic price. And if it's not like today's market, even if you price a home lower, there will be competition to bid the house up. There's always a conventional wisdom that you can never sell a home less than what it's worth, but it depends on the market. Sometimes if the market is not as active, you could lose money for the seller, but sometimes it doesn't matter. They have a bottom line, as long as it's met, they're fine, even if it's 20,000 shorter than what it really worth. It just depends on what their motivation is. Their goal is to do minimum work and get it sold, and they have a lower expectation. I mean, it's not a problem, but you want to have that conversation in your head and see. Sometimes they may not be something you want to tell upfront. But so your conversation sitting on the dining table is to come to a conclusion where you want to start, and then the price, the condition, and you know, you can't change the location, right? But those are three things that determine the home value. The location is fixed, you can't move a home. Condition of the home is what you see as you do the walkthrough, and your conversation with the seller, what they're willing to do to change. It's not realistic to think that the seller is going to spend $50,000 to renovate a whole kitchen, a bathroom, just to get a good price. And you need to understand how much is a normal kitchen renovation cost and bathroom renovation cost, and are they going to get the return, right? Because some of them, they really come to you as an advisor to give them that idea. Should I do something, right? And how much would that cost? And you need, you know, I'm not saying you be the expert to tell them, oh, a kitchen renovation is going to cost $10,000. When in reality, it's a huge kitchen, it's going to cost 50, right? Because then they're going to be mad. They started the work and it costs a lot more than they thought. So the goal, I mean, hopefully 95% of the time, you don't have to do major work. But your recommendation, the easiest part is to do cosmetic update, right? Maybe they need a new carpet. Maybe they need a new painting for the whole house inside. Maybe they, I mean, for the most part, most of the homes I have listed, I always recommend them to do a power wash of the outside, clean up and spruce up the curb appeals, maybe plant a little bit of something in the front, make it fresh. Don't plant super delicate flowers that needs people to water every single day and you live 30 minutes away and the seller is not there. The last thing you want to do is have buyers come to the house and then there's a bunch of dead brown flowers in the front. So recommend things that are easy to do, professional cleaning, declutter, that's most important. Those are the things that are very easy to do, not necessarily for the seller, but sometimes you can get someone to help them. That's why it's important for a listing agent to always have a few painter number on hand, have cleaning crews on hand. None of these things have to be paid by the agents. You certainly can offer certain things, but you want to know how much they cost and what, you know, what it does for you. And power washer, some landscaping companies that, you know, either cut the lawn, do some mulching, just cut the lawn, do the mulch, is going to give the house a really nice curb appeal. So those are the basic things we typically recommend. And then obviously painting is not cheap, so you want to understand how much it costs. Talk to a few painter, give them some ideas about the homes you're thinking, and then have an idea, right? Because the seller is going to ask you, oh man, how much is it going to cost to paint a whole house? If they have never painted a house since 1980, their idea of a cost of paint is very different than what it is today, right? Have some ideas. Don't give them a number, give them a range. And if you have an idea from 2 years ago, definitely get a new idea because things are costing differently now. So those are the things you recommend, and then you come, you ask them, hopefully you will agree on a price. And then the next thing is to go through any remaining objections. That's, don't assume they will ask or object to the commission part of it, but you need to understand how to overcome those objections, right? Overcome, why do I have to paint the house? Why do I have to replace carpet? Can I just offer a credit? And I don't want to replace it because I live here and it's such a pain to move all my furniture. I'll give them $3,000, they can replace carpet. You want to understand. And I say these things when I go through sellers that don't want to do these work, especially the paint and carpet. If you can spend $3,000 to paint a whole house, when the seller walks through a house that's not painted for a long time and is really bad, especially the house is really dark, very bright, dark paint, they are going to think, oh, this is going to cost me $6,000. They will at least double your cost when they think through it. If the carpet is going to cost them $2,000 to replace, if it's a smaller house, the buyer's mind, is going to cost at least $5,000. So they will discount that directly from their, offer, or they may simply pass that because they don't have the cash to do it. They cannot see through that vision because there are buyers when they come in. It's all dark brown walls or super, the old yellow walls. And oh man, this house is so outdated. I don't want it. I don't want to live here. A lot of people don't have that vision. And that's something that we talk about on the buyer side. When you show a buyer, you need to point out the vision. And the same thing on the seller side, you need to tell them from a buyer's eyes, this is what they see. So do you want to eliminate a bunch of buyers or do you have the resources to do that? And there are contractors, if you ask around, if you truly think this is going to help them and the seller doesn't have the money to pay up front, and you are pretty certain the house is going to sell, you can also bring these contractors to them and say, I have contractors that can actually do the work and don't get paid until the house closes. So when you sell the house, we can pay them at that time. But think about it. If you spend $3,000 painting the house and you can get an offer that's $5,000 to $10,000 more, that's a really good return, right? Or if they have a really short timeline, a house will sell, on average 30 days or 60 days quicker. Would that be beneficial for your timeline? They're like, oh yeah, absolutely. So there are things you want to suggest, and then you will come to an agreement about the price, the time to list the home, because if they have a ton of clutter boxes, you want to make sure it's a lot of work to sell a house. So they need to clean up everything. They need to move things out of the house because you want the house to look spacious, no matter how small. So, and you can offer staging consultation, but not everybody wants to stage their house, right? So you need to it's good to have, talk to a few stagers, even if you may not use their service. They will give you a general idea what's important when they stage a house. So you have an idea that when a house is being sold, what's important, even if you can't afford a staging company or a staging consultation, because especially when you're new, you don't want to spend a ton of money, right, before you even get a listing. So, but you can give a general idea, like we really need to move all the things in the house out. Because if the buyer walks in the house and see there are things from floor to ceiling, the next thing you know, they're like, oh man, this house is too small, right? Because their visual is small. There's no space for them to even walk around. You want to create space. That's why when you see smaller bedrooms on sale, they always put a tiny bed in there, they push it to the corner, so there's lots of space to walk. That's not how they live. They don't live like that. So those are the things you need to know. That's why I'm saying studying ahead of time is important. Studying how houses are staged and talk to people in the office. Like I constantly have staging consultations done in my client's house that we're listing. If you tell me you wanted to hear about how stagers talk, I can probably fit you in one of these. I don't want to bring 10 people to a staging consultation unless it's my best friend, right? But I might be able to bring one. I say, hey, this is Coleman, a new agent in my office. He's just shadowing me to see how the staging, how stagers give advice. You will learn a lot because see, my stager is going to tell you need to clean everything out of your closet that's on the floor. You can't have things in the closet that's stuffed from floor to ceiling. And you don't want things that are in different purposes in the same closet. You don't want stuff, you don't want cleaning supplies in your pantry, you don't want extra pillows in your coat closet, because that tells people you don't have space. Because guess what? When they see you don't have space, they imagine themselves don't have space, and they're not gonna wanna offer in your house. So those are the things you can utilize our resources to go on things before you even have a client. You know, that's why learning is important. So those are the things, you talk, you agree, you make a game plan with the seller, and then hopefully by then you have asked for all kinds of questions about, you know, objection handling. You know, obviously people are saying, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do that? You need to have an answer for it. That's why script practicing is important. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to practice the script in this. We have a guide, right, for the student guide. So there are scripts you can practice. But the point is to learn the essence of that objection handler so that you can say it in your own way, right? And then obviously we have the objection handling of commission. Why do I have to pay both agents? Then you have to explain, right? You have to clarify why that's the industry norm. And there are people that are like, oh, well, I want to, you know, I don't want to pay that much. So you need to have an answer for why things are a certain way. Some people don't want to declutter. Some people don't want to sign in their yard. So all these things, some people absolutely want an open house, and some people don't want any open house. So you want to know all what ticks and what works for them, explaining everything. So, and hopefully by the end, you say, have I addressed all your concerns? Do you think we're good to go? I would really like to have this listing agreement signed so I can start marketing your home. And then hopefully those were both the decision makers, and they can both sign, and then you're good to go. To put your listing in the system, start, you know, after listing appointment, after listing agreement signed, it doesn't mean your job is done, right? You got the listing, now you have to go actually sell that listing. And that's a different topic, you know, but whatever you promise, you want to make sure you note it down that you're going to do. You're going to do what you say, and you're going to do more than what you say. And I think that's closing the deal to get the listing agreement signed. And sometimes, you know, you might want to, and to know that we have a coming soon option, we have an addendum you can actually propose a coming soon, because it takes time to prepare a home, right? So you can get that listing agreement signed and says, we have an option to give us up to 3 weeks to actually go live and start having people show the house. So we can sign a listing agreement with a coming soon, because this coming soon addendum is going to allow me to start marketing your home to potential buyers, potentially, you know, all the buyer agents, so I can send the word out to the universe, and then hopefully they will start preparing their client to come see us, create that excitement. Especially in this day and age, right now where it's such a shortage of inventory. So having that coming soon, the moment you have it coming soon, and a seller agrees to have a sign in the yard, your name is out there, right? Your naming rights are there. Neighbors are going to start seeing the sign. You might get calls. You might get new clients. You know, the goal is try to get business going, right? So that's pretty much what, you know, in the agenda for today. To recap, we need to understand where the seller comes from. So market to get sellers. If you read MREA, there's 3 L's, right? Listing, leads, listing, leverage. So listing is the game. It's the name of the game. You know, if you have a listing, you will stay in business. You can stay in business being a buyer agent as well. Buyers are time heavy, labor intensive. Listings are more leveraged, because once you get that listing agreement, there are things you can do on your time. You don't have to make an appointment always with your buyer to go see houses in the nights and weekends. And whenever there's a house came up, they call you middle of the night to go see, and offers are due on Sunday, or they take an offer earlier. Can you send an offer in 2 hours? You just drop everything. So market to get listings, prepare for that listing by first preview houses, know the market, know the farm areas you like, know the areas, know what sells, what doesn't sell, what's the impact on different features of the home. and then prepare your listing, qualify the sellers ahead of time, send that listing, pre-listing packet if you have, and then go on listing appointment, stay on time, answer all the questions, understand the seller's needs, and then get that listing agreement signed. Any questions, recap, ahas? Yes.
When going through the price point for selling someone's house, like saying, I think, when you list between X and Y, do you find it beneficial to kind of use like a pyramid as an example? Like, well, if we list it at here at the top of a range, we're going to get less offers. If we list it kind of in this price, we're going to get more offers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we have that diagram actually. I don't know if it's in the book or I think it's in the book. Yeah, that triangle is, the pyramid is in the book.
Okay.
So if you priced it right, you get, obviously if you price slightly attractive, you have a lot more buyer, but depending on the market, people may not be as competitive, so you may not get to where you want to be. So you want to be in the optimum zone that you get enough people to look at it, but you don't overprice yourself to sell other people's houses.
Okay.
So for that, you want to understand, that's why I'm saying the market is important. We're obviously in a seller's market right now. When we're in a buyer's market, you want to understand. And one of the things, and that's the thing that have that conversation about, if the seller decides to price it a little bit higher than you want to have set that expectation up front about price reduction, right? If we list a home in any given market, if we don't have 10 or more showings in 10 days, you're overpriced, right? If you're priced in any market, you don't even have 10 people, unless you're listing a home that's 2 hours away from anything else, and it was just a very few, it's a unique, so like a horse farm. You may not have that many buyers, and that's a different situation. But if it's any normal houses, every house in the market is selling on average, let's say 2 weeks, right? I'm not talking about today's market. Everything here sells right away. But if the market goes back to normal, we're not talking about a buyer's market either. But if you always look at what's the current days on market. If the average days on market is 2 weeks, and we don't even have 10 showings in 10 weeks, in 2 weeks, then you're overpriced, right? People are not even coming to see your house. Or you didn't present it properly, and you might want to do something to the house, right? So you either change the price or you change the house. It's either price or conditions. You can't change location. And then the other thing is, once we get 10 showings, we get 0 offer. Something's wrong, right? You have to get the feedback from all these buyer agents, and hopefully at least half of them will tell you something. Then you go back into the seller and say, hey, this is the feedback. We didn't have any offer after 10 showings. And the things that they picked on, for example, you live on a really busy road, or you live at the back of a train track, and nobody wants that. That just means your price is high. That condition you cannot change, right? So then you have to go back and talk to them. Remember we talked about this? We didn't have any offer after this many showings. We need to reduce price. Otherwise, it's just sitting here doing nothing. So yeah, so that's the pyramid that you can use. Yes, absolutely.
Do you ever come into contact with someone's like, no, I want to list it at this price? And you're like, okay, we can list it at that price, but if we don't do X, Y, and Z in the next 2 weeks, I want us to drop it by X. You
can have that expectation up front, and some people actually sign that in the listing agreement.
Okay.
We will drop the price to this if we don't get this.
Okay. Do you find that beneficial, or do you take it and kind of catch it when it comes to it?
I have never signed that in the listing agreement. I don't like people not agree to something at the time of change, because the thing is that they agreed to change it. Well, if you sign that, you definitely want to go back and revisit that right before you change it in the system, right? I usually don't. I don't have. If my client's expectation is super unrealistic, other than right now, I had one last year, but I don't really have a lot of these. I try to pre-qualify my sellers pretty well. I don't take anything that's just. Because the thing is, you're just going to spend, listing is not, buyer is time heavy, it's not money intensive. The listing side, on the other hand, you have a lot of expenses.
Right.
So you want to understand, is this realistic for me to sell this house?
Right.
If it's not realistic, then don't do it, right? 'Cause you're gonna end up spending a lot of money, and their expectation is so here, there's no way you can finish it. So if you don't think your chance of getting paid is very high, then I wouldn't do a whole lot of it.
Yeah.
So, but in this market right now, it's very forgiving, right? Price changes all the time. That's why right now, if you were to do a listing appointment, I would say, not only you have to do CMA, you really need to talk to all these pending agents, like the pending listings. You need to talk to them on both sides, because people don't necessarily tell you a whole lot, right? Like, oh, sorry, I can't say until it closes. But you'll have an appointment next week. They're not closing for another 4 weeks. So how do you tell people? And you will have people coming to you when you go to a listing appointment. They say, oh, my next door neighbor just sold. It wasn't on the market. And you don't know that, right? So sometimes expect that. Don't, I didn't know. And don't let that surprise you. There's things that are happening. You need to stay, very close to what's happening in the market and tell them, things are not necessarily staying the same all the time. So there's changes, there's things happening. The interest rate is going up, it's over 5%, and that changes people's, qualifications and things like that. So things are, yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I do have a question. So my name is Sophia, and I like the question that you mentioned with the neighbors. So when it comes to possibly, getting an estimate of the price of the home, would you compare it to like the home they sitting next to the property, or like the comps that you see?
Well, I mean, if the home next to the property is not recently sold, that's not really a comp, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't know the value. But what I'm saying is sometimes you do want to kind of browse around, because you might find things sold off market that's not in the MLS. So as much as possible, you want to research, is there any non-MLS transactions? There's a lot of those happening right now. And they're not necessarily the right comp, because without the maximum exposure in the market, they may not get the right price, right? So, and there are things that are special about certain houses, but because it's not in MLS, we don't have any data. We don't have any photos. We don't know what they did in the house. So, you want to be prepared, but those are things you can use as an objection handler, right? When the seller says, well, so-and-so sold for so much, and they may know more. So you just have to stay curious and like, oh, I didn't see that in our system. And it's obviously an off-market sale, a private sale. So do you know more about that? And maybe they'll tell you a whole lot about it. It's not just, they're not necessarily saying you're not qualified or, not informed. Because you can't be knowing everything, right? Good. Anybody online have any questions? I think we're good. Robbie's here, and Robbie is going to take over, continue the, what is it, a tech?
Yeah, we're new command, little command blip.
All right. Cool.
Everybody out of here.
Very good talking to you all. Best of luck.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Get more listings. We definitely need them.
Thank you, Sophia. It was a great session. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yes, thank you, Sophia.
Yeah. Let me know if you all need anything. You can always reach out to me. All right. Bye.
Thanks, Sophia.
Thank you.
We still have TC turning in 11, right?
No, Patrice isn't here. I was gonna let you guys know
Yeah,
that.
so,
She got a little delayed getting out of,
Thank you.
Steve Thomas.
so,
Must be nice. Yeah. Work too.
let me get myself in here real quick.
It's a good place to be stuck in.
I know, right?
Right back to the bathroom.
All right. Awesome. How's everybody doing? Everybody good? Everybody online good?
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So you guys had seller appointments today, right? So you guys hopefully got a lot of knowledge from Sophia. She is fantastic at what she does. And honestly, it's one of the reasons why we had our teaching night. So glad, hopefully you guys got a lot out of that session this morning. What we're gonna do is we're gonna touch on, so if you were in how to get paid with me the other day, there was a new feature that just came out in Command for listings. So since this was a listing class today, I really wanted to touch on this. So if you go into your listing pipeline, right? So if we go into, wait, I don't want to be in Command MC, I want to be in regular Command. All right, so if we go into opportunities, right, we pull up our pipeline. Come on. All right, so any of the listings that we are now doing, right? Before you had just your detail, your seller profile, your documents, your offers and commissions, and then notes. Now you see this big purple blinking dot right here. This is the newest add-in to Command, which is the marketing piece. So Command came out and said that they were going to add in a new place for you to market your opportunities. So now when you go in, they have recommended designs and campaigns for you to run through your marketing, depending on what you're trying to, accomplish, right? So you've got for sale trifolds, just listed flyer, just listed post, open house post, for sale post, right? So these are all designs that you can go in, you can create. So if we were to, you can obviously click create design right up here, or you can go into, let's just say this just listed flyer and click on that and look where it's going to take you. It's going to take you directly into designs. So again, how easy is this now to market your properties, right? So now remember, with when you have a just listed, or if you have anything that you're looking to to get out there for your marketing, this is fully customizable, so you can go in, you can change our, put our logo in down here. If you have a branding or your own logo, you can add those in as well. But also you can go over to the KWLS and you can pull the property address and put it directly in for your just listed flyer, download it, and then be able to have it either printed or send it out as a social media post, right? So you can do all of that now from opportunities. So who likes things that are easier? I know I do, right? Okay, this doesn't get much easier than that, right? To go in, just be able to click on one button and boom, you are right where you need to be in order to brand that that coming soon listing or that just listed property. The other thing, along with the designs, is that they added in the social ads, right? So you can now create your social ad from opportunities as well. So you can do a Facebook ad, whether it be just listed, open house, for sale, what have you, and then look what happens. You've got everything tracked here in your opportunities, right? So you can track how many impressions you're getting, how many clicks you're getting, how many leads you're getting off of that, right? To figure out how much money you're spending on that ad. And this is a great way to see, hey, is this actually worth my money, right? Is this worth, what's my return on my investment with this? So again, you can just click on create your social ad. It's going to pull up everything that you need in campaigns. And then it's going to allow you to do it and run it directly from there, right? So what are we doing? Are we advertising listing, trying to attract listing, track buyers, what have you? So we'd say, hey, we're probably going to advertise listing. And then look what we've got down here, right? We've got our campaign where we're going to run it. We're going to run it on Facebook. We're going to run it on Instagram, or we're going to run it on Twitter. So let's just say, hey, we're going to run it on Facebook. So it's not connected, right? So let's just go ahead and say, yep, connect account. And then it's going to take you into your settings to connect your account if your account is not already connected, right? So if I want to run an ad, I would just connect my Facebook. Again, everybody see how easy that was to connect an account, really just go in, click 2 buttons and then your account's connected, right? So now we can close out of this. We can say, hey, we're gonna run it on Facebook, create campaign. All right, so then if we had a property address, so let's just say, for example, remember, if you're looking for your listings through here, make sure you click that drop down to show all listings, not only your listings. All right, so for this example, let's just say we're going to use this one right here. So it's going to give you all the information that you've got, right? That it's pulling. Going to put it all in there. Going to give you a description of, you know, kind of, hey, this, you know, go ahead and put it in the description about the property that you're selling, a headline, and then media. So you can configure your media, right? So images, video, if you're going to add a video in there, you can do that. Facebook settings. So the account and page that you want to go to. And then you're going to see destination. And it's going to say Facebook lead generation form or site or landing page. So again, recommended form is a Facebook lead generation page because KW, Facebook have an agreement. They help with all the algorithms and all the back end stuff to help you get more clicks and more views. So I would recommend, again, as Command is saying, to do the Facebook lead generation form. So the button label, you can either have it say, learn more, sign up, contact us, or apply now, right? So learn more is always going to be a good one. Anybody have an idea as to why learn more would be a good one, right? People are probably going to be curious, right? They're going to say, hey, because you're only giving them a snapshot of what this is, right? So learn more, they're going to be like, oh, hey, let me go ahead and just click this real quick and see what, you know, what's going on. Then you can put this directly to your website, or if you have a landing page that you've created through Command, you can put it to go directly to that landing page as well. So audience, right? So it's going to say the United States, search a location. Okay, this is in Austin, Texas, what have you. So you can target a certain area, right, for your Facebook ad to, you know, go out and hit. So that's kind of what that looks like. And then lead settings. So what do you want to happen to leads that come from this campaign? Do you want them to be auto tagged, right? So you can have them with a tag that you already have, so that as soon as they're in, then boom, they are added to an auto tag. And then you can assign them to a smart plan, right? So you can say, hey, okay, if they're coming in and they're looking at this, I can put them directly into my monthly neighborhood nurture, right? Because they're looking at this area, so it's going to assign them to the, you know, whatever smart plan you want them to go directly to. And then it's a set it and forget it, right? But you're going to get notified that that lead has come in. And then duration and budget, right? So this is going to say, hey, we're going to run it from, you know, tomorrow, May 3rd through the 13th. Again, you can customize this. You can put it for however long you want that duration. It's going to auto-populate to 10 days. And then how much money do you want to spend, right? How much money are you looking to spend on your budget, right? So this one's saying $30, so $3 daily per channel. And then you're going to see over here, audience definition. Gauge how many people you'll reach based on your Facebook selections, right? So audience definition defined. So potential reach is 1.1 million people. Okay. It's pretty good amount, right? Pretty good.
30 bucks.
Yeah, for 30 bucks, you're going to reach 1.1 million people. I say that's pretty good. And then now remember, even if you get 1-2 leads off of this, right? Just say you get one on the low end, right? And what if that turns into something? Pretty good return on your investment, right? $30 for something that could be potentially a listing or a buyer, right? So again, that's how this is looking. Now again, this is going to be your web feed preview, so you can see what that's going to look like when you go ahead and create that campaign, right? So once you have it done, you would just go up here and click publish campaign, and then that campaign is going to start running automatically for you on the date, on the desired date. Does anybody have any questions about what I just showed you and how to utilize it and kind of what the thought process and idea was behind it? Sweet. So again, making your lives easier. Everybody likes the easy button. So Command came up with this easy button, KW came up with this easy button for marketing. Awesome. So that's kind of really all I wanted to show you guys. I saw this thing come out the other day. So I was really excited about that and wanted you guys to be able to see that. Again, like I said, no PC training today. Patrice is still trying to get home from her honeymoon, but she will reach out to you guys and then obviously post on her Facebook page and all of that. So appreciate you guys jumping on for Sophia's class and then sticking around and hanging out with me for command. And I will see all of y'all either at the meeting, the sales meeting tomorrow at 11 or on Wednesday for our next Ignite training with Alec. So I hope everybody has a great day and we will talk to y'all soon.
Thank you, Robbie.
Thank you.
Now, I do got one quick question.